This is Between the Lines. Today, we dissect the road less traveled.
Hello, how are you? Great Sunday. This is The Road Less Traveled, and we are now in chapter 25, which is called The Risk of Independence. And when you decide to leave behind your comfort zone, the known, the proper, the secure, the safe place that you already have, and make a decision towards taking a leap of faith, that is when doubt, fear, and everything comes up and starts whispering and telling you, what's wrong with me? You start asking, what is wrong with me? Why can't that be like everyone else? Why don't I follow my father's steps, my mother's steps? Am I going crazy? Who do you think I am to do something different? Why don't I follow the rest of the people? And why I am letting my family down? How can I do this? And all those kind of questions that are constantly in your head. And that is exactly what happens when you decide to do something different, or at least different. Maybe not for the whole world, but maybe just for your family, the things that you already know, and your comfort zone, as we said. So if you are able and courageous enough, as we mentioned before, and despite all these questions and doubts and fears and everything, you decide to take a conscious leap of faith into a certain direction, which is sometimes the opposite, or at least different from what you are expected to do, and you decide to go on your own and do the things that you feel somehow in your heart, or you have this idea of, I know, I'm certain that I have to go the other way, not the one that's being led in front of me. And that is when, if you take that decision, if you make this decision to follow your heart, we could say, the doctor doesn't mention this phrase, he doesn't say follow your heart, but it's the way I find to explain it. If you decide to do that, then you become the master of your own life, right? Just by taking that leap of faith that you know, maybe not consciously, or maybe you don't know why you know. That is generally a signal that you really need to do that. Generally, that is a big change. And as every major change in your life, it will be not understood by the rest of the people, your family, your friends, and it can be really challenging for you. But as every major change in life, in order to grow up and to become an adult, at least in some aspects of your life, it is something that you have to do, or, well, you can decide not to, but if you decide not to go through that path ever, maybe not now, maybe next year, I don't know, but if you never take that step, you risk, the real risk is not only not growing, but going back to your, I like to call it like trashing your mind palace, or just diminishing yourself, or going back to the shack mind. So define your own conformity, or your own status quo, you can grow again, and it will be painful, because major changes are painful in general. And so this risk of independence, of freedom, for you, it's worth the while, because you will learn a lot, you will grow out of it. And as I mentioned before, you require courage. It requires courage from you to put all the love you need into this effort of changing, the discipline, taking the responsibility and the commitment, and also by doing that, you are like also showing appreciation towards yourself, which the doctor calls here self-care. And he mentions, as in almost every chapter, he mentions an experience. In this case, he mentions his own experience that he had to take this kind of leap of faith at the age of 15. And he had this following challenge that I am about to tell you. He didn't want to go to a certain college that his parents, he was from a wealthy family, so he had certain level and he was expected to go to a certain college. He did that and he went to that school away from his parents, but he didn't seem to fit there. He said he was miserable all the time, and when he came back to his home, he decided to say to his parents, I don't want to go back to that school. And of course at home everyone said, but your older brother went there and he adapted and he made everything okay. If he could adapt, why can't you? And they also said, we are taking you to the best place that we can, the best place that money can afford, because we want you to have the best education possible. And so he realized, yes, I don't know why, because he didn't know why he didn't go back to that school, but he felt somehow, somewhere, that he didn't want to do that. And even though he asked the same questions that we said before, am I going crazy? Because I know that's a great school. I will have a lot of chances to work whatever I want, because that is a great school and I will have the contacts and everything. But at the same time, he knew that that wasn't the option for him. And at the same time, he mentions that his parents had always told him that no matter how or what he did, he would be appreciated and loved. So he took that to himself in every aspect of life, because he said, I had loving parents and I know I am valuable as a person. So however decision I make, I will be just fine. Even though he did have depression and he was going to a psychiatrist due to this depression. But inside of him, as he had, again, great parents that had treated him well and taught him well, he felt valuable. He felt valued and loved, and that is why specifically he decided to take the decision of not going back to that school. He said, because I love myself, so I cannot go against my own will, my own love or care, and I don't want to go back to that school. And so he goes to mention several things from there about how our parents influence us in our bringing up, because during our growing up, because if he hadn't had that kind of loving parents, he wouldn't have been able to take that decision, or maybe it would be really even more uncomfortable than it was at the time. He even mentions that he wanted to, through his head, he came briefly to take his own life, because he thought that he was going crazy, because he dared to take another path than the one that had been led in front of him. So that was a major change and a big event in his life when he changed completely, and that was really a real experience of him growing up from being a child into adulthood, taking these kind of decisions. And just as a side note, I want to leave you this quote from this chapter. And he says, the highest forms of love are inevitably totally free choices and not acts of conformity. So exactly that. We need to be able to defy our own comfort zone. Because again, for example, in the case of the doctor, he knew he wouldn't have any bad consequences with his family because he knew he was loved and valued and everything. But even despite of that, he felt somehow this total discomfort with his decision. But he did it that anyway. So there will be times in our life, maybe you have already had this time of things in your life where you decide to take a leap of faith and everyone around you will say that you are going crazy and that kind of thing, but you know that you have to do that specific thing that you want to do. And maybe you have already learned that even though this change can be really painful, it will be also freeing at the same time. And I hope you had already have that experience. And if you want to comment, of course, you are always appreciated for that. And thank you for being here. See you next Sunday. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Ulua's next episode.